This is the news leader. Channel 7 Eyewitness News with Bill Beutel, Diana Williams, Scott Clark with sports, Sam Champion with the exclusive AccuWeather forecast, and the Eyewitness News team. Now, Eyewitness News.
No evidence here of sexual harassment.
At times defiant, at times humble, the president battles with prosecutors in a tape seen around the world. And the full force of Hurricane George hammers Puerto Rico on a path toward the United States.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Diana Williams.
Bill Beutel is off tonight. I'm Robb Hanrahan.
And we begin tonight with the growing fallout from the Clinton videotapes. While the president gets ready for a night at the Waldorf here in New York, the spin on his 4 hours of videotaped grand jury testimony is in full swing. We have live team coverage tonight of the President's Day here in New York and the buzz in Washington. We begin with Jim Dolan, who is live on Capitol Hill. Jim?
Diana, after watching the president's testimony, you have to wonder what the Republicans were thinking when they decided to release it. The abstract idea of the tapes was far more menacing, more damaging to the president than the testimony itself. The president did not lose his temper. He did not stomp out of the room, and though his answers strained the bounds of credibility, America already knew that, and there was no smoking gun to be found here. For all the hype, the president's testimony was merely embarrassing to himself, to the prosecutor, and most of all, to Monica Lewinsky.
That's what I believed it meant.
And so the verbal contortions went during 4 contentious hours of grand jury testimony. To the outsider, they seemed like simple enough words, but the president and his interrogators agonized over their meaning almost endlessly.
My understanding was, when I was giving it, was that what was covered in those first 2 lines was any direct contact by the person being deposed with those parts of another person's body if the contact was done with an intent to arouse or gratify.
There were flashes of anger from the president.
They were trying to set me up and trick me. And now you seem to be complaining that they didn't do a good enough job. I did my best, sir, at this time. I did not know what I now know about this. A lot of other things were going on in my life. Did I want this to come out? No. Was I embarrassed about it? Yes. Did I ask her to lie about it? No. Let me finish, Mr. Bennett. You brought this up.
But certainly no explosions, as had been leaked. In fact, the prosecutor often looked more difficult than the president, like when he tried to get the president to explain something about his lawyer.
Mr. Bennett was representing me. I wasn't representing him.
He admitted early on to an inappropriate physical relationship with Lewinsky, but denied committing strict perjury. The bulk of the president's argument rested on a strict definition of sexual relations and on not going beyond those parameters.
It was not my responsibility to volunteer a lot of information. I was doing my best to be truthful. I was not trying to be particularly helpful to them. And I didn't think I had an obligation to be particularly helpful to them.
Indeed, Monica Lewinsky, on the other hand, was far more forthcoming in her testimony, also released today in transcript form. She spoke about the now infamous dress and of her parents' meeting with the president, pictures of which were also released today. And for 49 pages, prodded by an unyielding prosecutor, she went into agonizing detail of her sexual relationship with the president. Lewinsky had this to say about her relationship with the president of the United States, quote, "I just knew he was in love with me from the way he acted that day, and that's not something I would think easily, and I knew I was in love with him." And concerning the intimate details of their sexual relationship, which she was forced to provide the grand jury, quote, "It's just hard thinking my dad might see this."
And I'm glad she got her mother and herself out of trouble. I'm glad you gave her that sweeping immunity. I'm glad for the whole thing. It breaks my heart that she was ever involved in this.
In Lewinsky's testimony, she says she believed that the president might actually someday leave his wife so that the two of them could be together. It is by far the saddest part of this story, a schoolgirl with a schoolgirl crush that is being played out now on an international stage. The president had a busy day, but not here in Washington. He, of course, was in New York, where Lauren DeFranco is following him. Lauren.
Well, Jim, certainly Clinton cannot avoid this scandal, but during his stay here in New York, he made no mention of it, at least publicly. After a speech at the UN, Clinton took part in a roundtable discussion with world leaders at NYU Law School. And if that was a calculated move to maintain his standing as an international leader rather than a scandal-plagued president, it seemed to work, at least among students there.
Based on his performance today, it'll be a little bit easier to separate him from everything else that's going on in his life.
At least part Part of the president's visit to New York was spent doing damage control. Ignoring the scandal altogether, he discussed serious global issues with highly respected world leaders, like Britain's Prime Minister Tony Blair. At NYU Law School, he used the forum as a platform to reinforce his position as an international leader.
One of the things that paralyzes the country is when the rhetoric governing the national civic and political debate is composed of false choices designed to divide people and win elections, but not to advance the common good.
He clearly came to discuss ideas of greater importance than what he's been doing in his personal life.
But his personal situation was clearly the country's business, as 4 hours of embarrassing grand jury testimony played to a nationwide audience. An image law students at NYU couldn't abandon completely. There were some awkward moments during the dialogue here, like when the president asked other leaders what their biggest domestic problem is.
The students reacted differently to different comments he made, something that might have alluded, let's say, to his current troubles. There were a little snickering in the room.
At the UN General Assembly meeting this morning, there was none of that. World leaders gave the president a show of support with a standing ovation. There he called for a united front to combat high-tech terrorism. Through it all, Mrs. Clinton stood by her husband and remained focused on the issues as well. She also appeared at a democracy forum at NYU. Now, Hillary Rodham Clinton talked about global economy and received a standing ovation as well. The Clintons ended their day here at the Waldorf Astoria, and tomorrow the president is scheduled to meet with Japan's prime minister in Tarrytown. Reporting live from Midtown, I'm Lauren DeFranco, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
Thank you, Lauren and Jim. And for more on the president's videotaped grand jury testimony, stay tuned for a special one-hour Nightline immediately following this broadcast.
Diana, our other big story tonight, Hurricane George stormed ashore in Puerto Rico with pelting rains and driving winds. The conditions are so severe there that we're unable to give you a live signal from the island. N.J. Burkett, though, has been covering the story. He's in the middle of it all, and he joins us now live by telephone with the latest. N.J., are you there?
Yeah, that's right, Rob. I'm speaking to you from the lobby of our hotel. At 5:30 tonight, our technicians had to dismantle the satellite transmission disc to keep it from blowing away. We've spent much of the night in the stairwells of the hotel with hundreds of other guests, and so many windows have blown out here. This high-rise hotel is now one big wind tunnel. No injuries here, but there are already reports of deaths elsewhere on the island. The storm scored a direct hit on Puerto Rico and slammed into San Juan with a rising storm surge and hurricane-force winds that did not let up for at least 3 hours. There are indications now that this storm may have exceeded even the worst predictions. Damage is expected to be widespread, possibly severe. There are reports that at least 3 people were killed here in the first hour alone. So many residents crowded the shelters here that an official count was impossible. The homes they left behind were cement huts and wooden shacks. Many were on the water. In the hours before the storm, disaster teams urged neighbors to get out. And those reported to have died tonight apparently did not die in shelters. They chose to stay home, like this man.
No, we are not afraid. We are ready for get the hurricane.
Officers on motorcycles cruised the streets of Old San Juan. Others took up positions on street corners. 18,000 officers have been called in. The last hurricane to hammer Puerto Rico was Hurricane Hugo, but it was not a direct hit, which is why so many people here were dreading this night.
So I'm nervous. Yes, I'm very nervous.
We've been in the...
That's N.J. Burkett. He's in a hotel there in Puerto Rico. Let's get the latest on the path of the dangerous storm. We turn now to Sam Champion for that part of it. Sam?
Well, Rob, for 6 hours now, this storm has been pounding Puerto Rico. There are 4,400-foot tops on the mountains that sit right in the middle of Puerto Rico, and that has weakened this storm a bit. The interesting thing is we show you not only Puerto Rico, but the Dominican Republic. Its next target, we think, is that as it moves to the west-northwest at about 15 miles per hour, heading on its way toward the Dominican Republic, the eye has actually reformed just south of Ponce, just about 22 miles west or just southwest of Ponce, which is right about there on the island. Now, the thing about the Dominican Republic is 10,000-foot tops on the mountains. Most storms that try to go across this island really do weaken quite a bit substantially, wobble, sometimes even change course. But here we're talking about up to 20 inches of rain in the mountains of Puerto Rico. That means not only do you have the 4 to 7 foot tidal surge up against the coastline, the 20 inches of rain falling in the mountains and the 110-mile-per-hour winds, you've got a wall of water rushing from the mountains all the way down to the island, and that's going to wash everything off those hillsides in its path. This is a very devastating storm to Puerto Rico and will continue to be all the way into, it looks like Santo Domingo and a good part of the Dominican Republic and on into Haiti. We'll get that in detail for you. I do quickly want to mention that there are some strong thunderstorms that are in our area right now, moving through Middlesex County, also on the way through Staten Island and quickly into Queens and Brooklyn. We think there's going to be 1 or 2 strong hits from this Staten Island line. There's an awful lot of lightning in this. These are the thunderstorms that will be scattered around the area tonight. We'll talk more about this, and then we'll go over the wind speeds in Antigua and St. Martin and other places that were hit by the hurricane when we come back later in this half hour. Diane, Rob?
Okay. Thank you very much, Sam. We'll talk with you a little bit more on weather. We still have much more ahead on Eyewitness News. Coming up, chaos erupts at a Red Lobster restaurant when bullets fly. We'll have late-breaking details.
Plus a special report on a Brooklyn neighborhood suffering a pollution crisis, disturbing findings that the area may indeed be a health hazard. Also ahead, a cemetery or a garbage dump, a battle brewing in Newark to settle that very question. We'll be right back.
Have you seen this child? ABC-7 urges you to protect our children.
Pandemonium at the dinner table tonight. 3 people wounded as 2 men shoot it out inside a packed restaurant on Queens Boulevard. The men escaped before police arrived at the Red Lobster in Rego Park. A massive search is underway. Here's how it happened. Police say 2 groups of men started arguing, then pushing and shoving, and then the shooting started. 1 man is in stable condition. 2 women were having dinner near that fight were also hit by the gunfire. Well, the Manhattan District Attorney is dropping those murder charges against lifetime parolee Arthur Ford. Police arrested Ford over the weekend after finding Joe Soriano fatally stabbed in Central Park. Well, it turns out that Ford was released from a downtown jail only 15 minutes before the killing and could not have been at the murder scene. Ford, however, remains in custody tonight on an unrelated drug charge. Diana.
And now I'll take over. A family lawsuit charges the city of Newark has broken state law, turning a cemetery into a garbage dump that covers 18,000 bodies. The Lascarane family says City Cemetery is piled high now with trash and debris. The dump is a private operation leased from the city, but until 1966, it was a potter's
They probably
field.
figured we have indigents here, people that had no families, so no one's ever going to come looking for them. So what's the problem?
The Lascarane family says Newark turned the cemetery into a dump without moving the bodies or the row after row of tombstones that are now buried beneath the dump. Still ahead, a story of pollution, a special report on the frightening health hazards in a Brooklyn neighborhood. We'll have that and more when we come back.
Seems these days we're hearing more and more about cancer clusters. Well, tonight, residents in the Greenpoint Williams section of Brooklyn say that they're living in one of them. Many of their complaints center on an obsolete wastewater treatment plant, a plant where residents say bacteria from untreated wastewater is growing and making them sick. If environmental health were the measure of a neighborhood's vitality, then Greenpoint Williamsburg would top the city's critical list. According to several city agencies, this community of working-class immigrants and heavy industry suffers the worst pollution in New York City. The pollutants include toxic chemicals, the world's largest underground oil spill, airborne lead, and this, the Newtown Creek Water Pollution Control Plant.
For 25 years at that point, people had been living with a rotten egg smell. And not only that, they had been living with a rotten attitude on the part of the city of New York that basically didn't care about the impact that this was having on their lives.
That impact is severe. The plant processes 260 million gallons of wastewater each day, and for a generation it has failed every federal and state standard for clean water. Each attempt by the city to bring Newtown Creek into compliance has also failed, for reasons ranging from design flaws to changing regulations.
The treatment plant is discharging organic matter, sewage, and runoff that is not being treated sufficiently to meet biological oxygen demand standards.
When completed, these digesters will remove solid waste from incoming wastewater. But work on them has proceeded in fits and starts for 5 years. On the morning we showed up, no work was done at all. Construction crews sat idle for hours. Meantime, the old, inefficient equipment often releases untreated wastewater into Newtown Creek and the East River.
All of those wastewaters come into my little neighborhood. So is this fair?
Irene Clementowitz has lived downwind of the treatment plant for 40 years. Like many of her neighbors, she is in poor health, and she believes the plant aggravates her cardiac and respiratory illnesses.
The wastewater plant does empty into the Newtown Creek, and that does evaporate, and I believe that's another contribution to our problems with health.
Irene co-chairs the Newtown Creek Monitoring Committee, a grassroots organization that evaluates pollution levels and residents' health. Community efforts like this have led the city to a formal evaluation of Greenpoint Williamsburg's health. The results were alarming. There are statistically significant cancer clusters throughout the community for children and adults. Many of these clusters are near the treatment plant. The City Department of Environmental Protection operates Newtown Creek, but its commissioner refused our repeated request for an interview. In a letter to Eyewitness News, DEP did note that Newtown Creek has, in the past, been the subject of notices for violation for certain alleged failures to comply with federal or state standards. DEP is upgrading the facility to correct certain past problems. That's little comfort to the residents.
The potential health problem is there, and I'm sure everyone in the neighborhood is aware of it. At least I hope they're aware of it.
They are aware it's going to take time. The DEP projects that work on the Newtown Creek plant will take another 12 years. Scheduled completion date now June of the year 2010.
Wow. We'll have the latest on Hurricane George coming up in just a few minutes, but first we're going to take a look at tonight's winning New York lottery numbers drawn earlier this evening.
And for those of you holding New Jersey tickets, here are a look at those numbers right there. And now we'll have tonight's drawing of Take 5.
Good evening, I'm Dermot Henry. Welcome to Monday, September 21st, Take 5 drawing being observed by an auditor from KPMG Pete Marwick. Sharon Springs Central School is the most recent recipient of computers from the New York Lottery. Congratulations to Sharon Springs Central School. Tonight's winning Take 5 numbers are 9, 8, 26, 19, and 7, making Monday, September 21st, winning Take 5 results 9, 8, 26, 19, and 7. Thank you for joining us and have a good night.
Well, we've got a lot going on with weather tonight here and way down south.
Some other islands that we haven't been covering as intensely. Antigua at 113 mile-per-hour winds earlier in the day today. Phillipsburg in St. Martin coming in with 96 mile-per-hour winds. Martinique with 54 to 63 mile-per-hour winds. As we walk over to the wall, we'll show you what's out there today. And of course, we've got a lot more to talk about on George and the thunder showers that are affecting our region. 76 degrees outside right now, relative humidity at about 89%. We've got some moisture in the air. Light winds outside 84 degrees, the warmest number on the day. And as we've shown you, this system looks like it's got its eye right, well, just to the south, really, of Puerto Rico. A little bit west of Ponce is the center of this system. As it has been pounding this island, it moves next to the Dominican Republic. And as we said at the top of the show, 10,000-foot mountaintops there will have an effect on the strength of the storm, probably weakening it a bit, making it wobble, and that's why the path is not a certain one yet. We believe it does try to go over the islands, the Dominican Republic and Haiti area, and after that, we're not sure whether it makes the move north on toward Florida and Cuba or whether it just kind of wobbles around for a bit. So we'll be watching that very carefully over the next 12 to 24 hours. With some strong thunderstorms in our region tonight, we quite quickly pop to AccuTrack, I guess is the way to put it. And with those thunderstorms, you can see them in this line through Middlesex onto Monmouth County, moving, if you'll follow these, to the north and to the east. In a lot of this thunder shower line, we've seen some strong lightning hits, and through Perth Amboy, Staten Island, on into Brooklyn now. As we said at the top of the show, this storm system would move into Brooklyn, and it has already. These thunder showers will be around for a little while longer tonight. There will be one one or two more of them. So you can expect that they'll be dotted around the region like these that are sitting right there, beginning to form in Westchester Rockland County area. So there will be one or two spot showers. You're going to have to deal with that early in the morning as well. The picture is an improving one during the day tomorrow. Your overnight low temperatures will look like this: about 68 degrees, 66 degrees, 60 to 58 northern corners. From the humid mix today, as that cold front gets closer to us, expecting about a 6 a.m. frontal passage, that should still leave some clouds around by 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning with a scattered shower or maybe even a thunder shower. But by noon, we'll start breaking into clearing skies. It's a gusty, cool breeze tomorrow. Cooler temperatures to follow, though. 68 degrees, mostly cloudy, humid, and showery at 7 o'clock in the morning. For the rest of the day, early clouds, cool clearing, 76 degrees. But follow this on the 5-day. 65 on Wednesday. This is a real pocket of cool air. 65 on Thursday. Fall starts, by the way, just in time for the cool air on Wednesday.
Yes, we're going to feel it. Thank you, Sam.
Scott Clark next with sports.
Neon signs shining bright on a dark Giants night. Coming up on Eyewitness News, Neon Deion Sanders strikes and the Giants are left in his wake. We'll go live to Giants Stadium with reactions next.
Scott Clark with sports.
Thank you, and so much for getting back to playing Giants football. The Big Blue got blown away, just blown away by the Cowboys tonight, and left Giants fans lamenting about those good old days when there was no such thing as a neon Deion Sanders. He took in Brand Meadard's putt and then put on a punt return exhibition. Catch me if you can, and the Giants couldn't, as Sanders avoided all the blue shirts and scampered over, under, around, and through for a 59-yard touch return to open up the scoring. Cowboys up 7-0. Say hallelujah. Giants came back to tie it, but then Jason Garrett, filling in for the injured Troy Aikman, hit Billy Davis, and the Giants canceled themselves out the rest of the way. This one, 80 yards. The Cowboys led 17-7 at the half and then dominated the second half. Here's Danny Cannell to pass, complete to Deion Sanders. And there he goes again. Sanders takes it all the way back 72 yards and put a fork in the Giants. They were done. Cowboys win 31-7. Spencer Tillman joins us live from Giants Stadium with more.
Scotty, we are like the Giants. We're all wet. Gene Kelly, I'm singing in the rain, baby. I'll tell you what, Scotty, you know, watching great offenses like playing a Stradivarius, it just feels better. Never played a Stradivarius before, but I know good football when I see it, and the Giants simply left their A game at home tonight.
We just were totally out of sync, tried different things, tried everything, and just continually made mistake after mistake after mistake. Could not get the ship going in the right direction, and I'm just kind of mystified with it right now.
Well, they will lick their wounds and head out west to play San Diego coming up next week. We're live here at Wet Giant Stadium. I'm Spencer Tillman, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
Okay, Spencer, thank you very much. Let's go to baseball now. While the Mets enjoyed the night off, the Yankees were hosting the Indians at the stadium, and there, Charles Nagy kept coming, and the Yankees kept going. Paul O'Neill feels his wrath. Nagy pitched 5-hit ball for 8 innings, but Andy Pettitte struggled once more. Gave up 4 runs in 7 innings, all of them coming on that swing of the bat from Enrique Wilson in the top of the 5th. Gone for his first ever grand slam and a grand bummer for Pettitte, because that was it as the Indians score a 4-1 win over the Yanks. Toronto, Roger Clemens, his 15th straight decision, 20th game of the season. Cal Ripken returned to the Orioles lineup after ending his Ironman streak. Went 2 for 4, but also was one of Clemens' 15 strikeout victims. Blue Jays kept coming here. Little Craig Grabick comes through with a base hit. Here comes Jose Cruz Jr. to the plate. Never touched, never out. But you got to touch the plate.
No.
Finally, Toronto wins 3-1. And finally tonight, the sports world mourns the shocking death of track star Florence Griffith Joyner, who succumbed to an apparent heart seizure today. She was 38 years old. We came to know her as Flojo as she dazzled us with her speed and style. Florence Griffith Joyner, who won 3 gold medals at the 1988 Seoul Olympics, still holds the world records in the 100 and 200-meter dashes. 2 years ago, Joyner suffered a heart seizure on an airplane flight. Today, her heart gave out. I'm Scott Clark. That's it for sports.
Sad news. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you, Scotty. Still ahead, a New Year's celebration around the world.
Observing Rosh Hashanah when we come back.
Great is your mind. Tonight's sports report, sponsored by Toyota.
Jews in New York and around the world are celebrating Rosh Hashanah, the beginning of the Jewish New Year.
They are. The Stephen Wise Free Synagogue was one of many packed with worshipers today. The year 5759 on the Jewish calendar was ushered in at sundown Sunday night. The holiday begins the High Holy Days that end 10 days later with Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. Happy holiday.
Yes, and that is our news for now. And I have a quick note here. Bill Beutel returns tomorrow night to the 11 o'clock news. I want to say thanks to Bill for letting me sit in for him while he's been on. Thank you, Diana. I'm Robb Hanrahan.
For Rob, Sam, Scott, the entire Eyewitness News team, I'm Diana Williams. A special 1-hour Nightline's coming up next. Have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow.